recently found out that he is in talks to do a television series based on the Honor Harrington series.
Yeah, a very, very preliminary stage of them. In essence, Radar Pictures has optioned the books. We don't have a studio. What we have is Radar, a production company, doing a pilot script for a potential Honor Harrington series, which would then be, they would then approach studios with it. And assuming that they found a studio prepared to back it, we would then talk about where we were on final remuneration, what money goes where, and so forth. I have to say that Radar has a pretty good track record if you go and look at, for especially the cinematic productions they've been involved in. And I was really, really pleased with the conference call that we had with Radar. The two people who are tasked to do the screenplay, especially. I was very struck. Michael, I think his last name is Napolitani, but I'm not sure I have that right because it's been some weeks since I taught. But I thought he asked a very pointed question early on. He said that one of the things that they had discovered about Honor Harrington when they started looking at the series compared to a lot of other action series and whatnot is the extent to which readers identified with Honor, the way that they wanted to emulate her, to know somebody like her, etc. And he asked me, he said, in one word, why is it you think they do that? And I'm like, wow, But I told him that I think the one word is responsibility, because Honor is a responsibility taker. I think that is what really draws people to her. That and the fact that once she recognizes a responsibility, she will need it or pretty much die trying. Okay, she doesn't sit there and say, what's this going to cost me if I do it? She does it. And that's certainly a trait that I admire. I suppose it comes through in my writing, generally speaking. But I think it's also one of the things, probably the strongest thing that attracts people to Honor. And probably the second word would be compassion, because it's the fact that she cares about people that's all tied up in there. Honor herself has said that under the wrong circumstances she would have been a monster, and she recognizes the way to which these traits that were largely instilled in her by her parents kept her from doing that, kept her from becoming that. But they picked up on, in this conversation, that they picked up very much, they zoomed in on character, on who these people are. Okay? And I think that's huge. Okay, they're not looking for just glittery space explosions or anything like that. They are looking for what would in essence be a character-driven story, which any successful story has to be, in my opinion. That doesn't mean there can't be, exploding starships and all that other stuff in it. But if people don't care about the characters, and if you're not telling a story worth telling because of the characters in it and because of what they are doing, what's happening in their lives and so forth, then it's not going to succeed with the audience, whether it's a reading audience or a television audience. That's what they, and I put them in touch with Tom Pope and Bu 9. And they were like, oh, there's someplace all this is archived? And we were like, yeah. So they have that available.
That's a pretty big resource.
It is. It's a huge resource. I'm not sure that Evergreen made as full a use of it when they were looking at the movie project as they could have. Mm-hmm. That's not to say they didn't make any use at all of it by any means. And I Radar is at least looking at it. Okay, where they go with it, I don't know. But it's like they said to me, and they said, you realize that you have a fan club of like 6,000 people out there. And I said, well, it's kind of an extraordinary group of people in a lot of ways, but yeah. And they said, that's highly unusual, and that they think it speaks to the way in which Honor speaks to the readership, and that they said they want to do TV that would speak to the viewership the same way. One of the writers said, our goal is to come up with a script that you will be as pleased with as George Martin was with Game of Thrones. I could live with that. But I think that they are approaching this with a great deal of respect for the content. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the pilot will be one of the existing books. I suggested a couple of starting points, including my novella, Let's Dance, which segues directly into Basilisk Station. One of the things that they are considering is starting at an earlier point in Honor's career than that. And I told them that I certainly would not be averse to that if that's what they want to do, they should tell me what they've got in mind and let me see about generating some new content for them, not necessarily a short story, but something that would slot into the canon in my notes and whatnot, so that there would not be any continuity problems down the road between the two. I mean, there will be some continuity problems, I'm sure, simply because the Honorverse is so big and so complex. It's actually considerably bigger and more complex a canon than the Game of Thrones universe, because there's so many more books and so on. I'm not saying that it's necessarily more complex or whatever. What I'm saying is there's more of it. And so there's a lot more room in there for, well, we're going to have to leave this thread out or whatever. So we'll have to see how that works out. But that's where that is. And the last time that you and I spoke for one of these, I had not yet had the conversation with them. I knew about the option, and I think I had actually mentioned it somewhere along the way, but I hadn't actually spoken to the people who would be working with. And so I really didn't want to say too much at that point about it. At this point, though, I can say that from what I've heard so far, I'm very enthusiastic about where they're going. And, I've been saying for quite some time that, especially after the difficulties that Evergreen had finding a place to gain traction on the series as a movie, that TV probably would be the best venue for the Honorverse.
I know several people have left comments saying that a TV series would be a better format.
Yeah, I think so. I think the Honorverse is very much an ensemble cast. I got an email from somebody the other day that said you introduced another damn named character. And I'm like, yeah, well, sorry about that. Yeah, but nature of the cast and the way in which all these people interact is so central to the storyline, and the storyline is so long. Okay, that trying to figure out how to encapsulate that into a movie would be extraordinarily difficult.